I think I'd probably, that's so tough. I know it sounds really like,
Jared, so nice to see you. We had a killer conversation a few weeks ago, and I think I wanted to bring that to everyone to share in the wisdom that you have, your experiences in life. So let's start with the basics. Who are you?
thanks for having me on, Felix. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, you've been one of the highlights of the past few weeks, meeting you and learning from you. So thanks for having me on your podcast. I am Jared Goldman, the founder and CEO of Nines.gg. We are a quality of life platform for gamers. We are we are fighting really hard to help people make money playing video games. Later on, we add an element of financial literacy where we're going to help people learn how to keep the money they've made. And eventually, we have aspirations to also teach financial instruments so we can help you grow the money you've made. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure for gamers.
Yeah, I mean, when we first met through the morning mentoring program, I think your platform is a very intriguing concept. Something that definitely isn't out there on the market as such, right? But the video game market is huge. I mean, we're talking about like $27 billion a year. So there's a lot of people buying into that platform. But obviously, that's not where you started. So how did you get to be here? Where did this idea come from? What's your path in life been like?
Yeah, so I have been a gamer my entire life. Growing up with red hair and glasses does not endear you to many people. I got bullied a ton. But I was lucky. My dad was in software sales. So when I was born, I had five computers in my house back when they were, the size of your entire trunk and outrageously expensive. So he was always going to different software trade shows and bringing home like gamified. Then everyone was like creating small games as kind of their business card to remember them. So I was playing gamified pitches and yeah, I got into gaming proper, Duke Nukem, Counter Strike, all of that, and it became my main hobby. So you become really good at what you put time into. So I've always just gamed, and let's see, somewhere in like 2013 ish, I was one of the top guys in Gears of War. And so when you're really good at a video game and you just beat some people, a lot of times they'll send you what's called a 1v1 request. So there's a reason, like, you couldn't be better than me, Felix. My team sucked or the connection was garbage. There's all sorts of excuses. So like, hey, play me one on one in a private match. And one day I got a 1v1 request and I thought, I've already beaten you and your entire team. The only other outcome is I could potentially lose. Like, it's not likely, but I know what the win feels like. Then I thought, if I could take some of your money, you want to put $20 on it, I would totally do that. I wonder if that's out there. And I immediately just like stopped thinking about the person on TV and went to the internet. It was like, I wonder if that's a thing. 1v1s for cash. And that's what it started as. And yeah, fast forward 3 years later, at the time I just thought, man, someone should do that. It wasn't out there. There was one company, I think, doing like skin wagering. So you could put up a skinned, like a different, uh, like a gun skin for Counter Strike. So there's only one company or one company doing it and one game supporting it. And it was like a wagering marketplace for people that play Counter Strike. And so I just thought, man, someone should do that. But I never imagined it would be me. Fast forward 3 years, I was in a really terrible situation. I I was fired from a job for culture fit. I ask a lot of questions. I'm a curious person. I have an odd perspective. And I have learned with me personally that if I leave room for people to interpret me, you could get a completely different feeling from the same words that I think mean something different. And so I had a personality conflict with the wrong guy. He was the VP of sales, basically the COO of this company. And I could never win. There was nothing I could say that would be interpreted in a positive light. And so things started getting worse and worse. And eventually he fired me for culture fit, which basically says you're not one of us. And that led me down a crazy path. I've got a pretty strong sales resume. I couldn't get a job anywhere. I mean, after being fired for first interview, people would see my resume and they'd talk to me a little bit and understand that what was on there was not even exaggerated. I could tell you how I got some of the numbers that are on my resume, and they'd be thankful I'm in the room. Second interview, they say things like, "Hey, I know you applied for this down here, but have you considered this up here? We think you'd be a really good fit in this direction." And it was always something way higher than what I would apply for. And then the third interview, they go check references, and they found better candidates. It was to the point where I was told I wasn't qualified to lease apartments for $17 an hour. And yeah, I just remembered this really big idea that I had had. I was in a situation where I had a big idea, a small amount of money, and a lot of time. And I remember thinking out loud, man, people dream about these conditions. Like, if I'm going to go start something, it's going to be now. And again, I never had any aspirations to start things. I think if somebody would have hired me for some shitty job, I would I would still be doing things I hate for people I can't stand. So I'm really thankful that it went down that path. But yeah, I was basically pushed into it. If I would have had any options at all whatsoever, it it wouldn't be me in front of you. You'd be interviewing someone else.
There's so many aspects to that story. First of all, thank you for sharing all of that. But there's so many aspects to that story where I think a lot of people can relate to. One of the things that you mentioned with that boss, the VP of sales, that you had a culture clash with. There's so many people in positions of authority who feel that just because they have a title, they can say mean things, right? And it's not so much, I think, that it was a culture clash. It's a fact that that person wasn't a good leader, because a good leader would find a way to incorporate you into that team, and you know use your strengths to your advantage, the team's advantage, the company's advantage, instead of saying, "Oh, you're not a culture fit, right? I don't like you, so you must go." I mean, that's just a stupid excuse that unfortunately so many people find themselves in, both on the receiving end, like you, but also on the authority end, right? Just because you have a title and you are a boss doesn't mean you are a good leader. And that's one of the things that I like to change in this world, is to create better leaders, because any good leader should be able to use your strengths, right? Your sales experience to the advantage of the team. Now, you have obviously a different perspective on life, right? You always try to find your own way. You're sort of that square peg in a round hole. But those are the people, those out of the box thinkers, that come up with new ideas, new strategies, new innovations to make the world a better place, to make a company better, right? To strengthen your company, what you do, your portfolio, the way you sell things, new ideas, new products. And by giving up on you, they really gave up on the company, because I don't know, it was very selfish in my mind. It wasn't very logical thinking. What's best for the company? And so for you to then say, you know what, I can do better, is fantastic. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that, right? That they have the ability to step out on their own, to create something of their own, because so many people are square pegs in a round hole, and trying to fit in with all that the rest of society doesn't always work. So I'm wondering, in terms of your own experience in life, where does that come from for you to be able to recognize there is something here, and I can do this on my own? Because that's the a lot of people have ideas and they have this dream maybe of stepping out on their own, but there's something missing. There's some, I don't know if it's confidence or what it is, but there's something missing for people to say, I'm actually going to do that. Now you did it. So where do you think,
Yeah,
what is the missing piece there, you think?
desperation. I mean, I had two choices. I could continue to not work and fade off into obscurity, be homeless, or I could play the one card I had. The one card is that I know the struggle of working 2 and 3 jobs just to not make rent, go home and what you're the best at in your own life nobody cares about. I know video games. I know video game culture intimately, at least this aspect of it. And I don't speak for all gamers, but everyone I've ever gamed with was over leveraged in most aspects of their life, and video games was their escape, which then turned into their skill set, which I'm hoping to help turn into their livelihood. And so it was, I didn't have any other options, honestly. Like, I was one of Best Buy's top guys in the world in 4 categories out of that small Coleraine store. I mean, seriously, I was number 1 in the world in service attached, number 2 in the world in the buyback program, number 2 in the world in pre-approved credit card sales, and 7th in the world in protection plan sales. At one point, we had people calling from all over the country asking, like, what are you guys doing? Are you gaming the system? Like, how are you even doing this? And I was lucky that they gave me all the credit. I mean, I had a lot of intrinsic value. I still made $11.50 an hour, so it wasn't really like it wasn't doing much for me. But I just know what it feels like to ride the hairy edge. To it's this problem has been it's more than just not being able to make money gaming. It's that a lot of us don't have any options. It's not that hard to make a mistake in life that changes the course of your aptitude. If you don't think you can build something, I mean, I was never a good employee for anybody. What made me think I'd be a good boss for myself? So I didn't have that, oh, I'm going to go build something. I knew uh, I could be a game changer for other people. I've done it many times. It's repeatable, but to think that I would work hard when no one's looking for me, based on all the shortcuts I've tried to take for others, I think a lot of the problems is the education system, honestly. It's there's so many things that are negative at first that then become positives later. Like if you cheat when you're in school, that's really bad. That's really bad. We'll expel you for that. In the workplace, if you can learn how to find shortcuts and efficiencies, that's incredibly valuable. Oh my God, you can growth hack. You can do this. You can do that. Um, Also, another thing that's daydreaming. If you daydream in school, that's terrible. That's really bad. Felix, you need to pay attention. We're going over this shit you're never gonna talk about again. You need to learn this. You get older and all of a sudden you can visualize and experts are teaching you how to do something that was native. I think a lot of it, and I'm not an anti-school guy. I'm just able to see the dichotomy of all of the things that become strengths later on in life are not conducive to makes you traditionally successful in the beginning of your life. And so a lot of us are kind of conditioned out of using that part of our intellect. And yeah, some hold on to it, and a lot of them were misfits that were just kind of like stubborn or didn't want to assimilate. But if you don't find that success later on, you live a very hard life. It's not it's not easy. So, yeah, my big mistake was I dropped out of college. Technically, I was kicked out, but it was based on my actions. Like no one did that to me. That was my mistake. I did not think that it would define the course of my life. And so after doing that, I was because again, I didn't see myself as a builder. I don't think I had the self-worth to think I could build something or that people would follow me or find what I have to say valuable. Um, yeah, I was relegated to retail and food service for my entire adult life. And let me tell you, man, on in your early 20s, someone would come into, I don't know, Best Buy or Apple, one of the places I'd worked, and say, man, you seem like a smart guy. Like, what's your plan? Is this it? And I would go home at night and I would just beg the heavens for someone to see something in me. Just give me an opportunity. I just need someone to take a chance on me. And it turns out no one's coming. And there's a lot of us that need that life raft. I would go home and I would fill my time with video games. That was my escape. So, yeah, I know it's a long answer to a short question, but I think first people need to see value in themselves. If you see value in yourself, that allows you to be able to have someone follow. Like you can't lead if you think you're always going down the wrong path, or you could be, or you're hesitant. Doesn't mean you have to be super decisive. You just have to have that little voice in your head that says, I can do this. And what's interesting is I've always had that, but for other people. I'm one of those people that doesn't believe things are not possible. We haven't figured it out yet. We don't know all the variables. That's kind of my my frame of thought, but that did not translate to doing something for myself. I literally was desperate. It had been 5 months, 4 months, something like that. I had just gotten rejected from. I just kept lowering my bar. You start out with things that are like, all right, this would be a really good fit, and if somebody says yes, I'm going to have world changing results for them. Not getting any traction there. Okay, so you go down a little bit more. What if I just went into like retail management? I've been in retail management before. I have all these other things. I intimately know this environment. That should be a no brainer. That's not happening. Okay, what if I um, did something else that was menial? And that last straw was when they said, I mean, do you know how far I would have had to drive to take that shitty job for $17.50 an hour or $17 an hour? It was like just south of Dayton. I live in Kentucky, man. I was willing to go to Dayton for $17 an hour. And they said, there's better people out there than you. And so I was staring into the pit of despair and I had no options. And if I would have had any, I would have taken those because I also at the time didn't have a very high self-worth. And so, yeah, I just started moving forward. I got excited by something. I found obsession. I talked to a lot of people about finding obsession. I think that's what we're missing. I think that would change everything. If we were taught how to find obsession in school, and the formula is very simple. I'm wildly reductive. That's a strength and a weakness. But I really believe that if you start looking at the different aspects of your life and figure out what you'd want to do for 8 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and you'd be happy doing that thing for 8 hours a day. Then you figure out how to make money doing that. And for some people, that could be fishing. It doesn't have to be what you grew up to think traditional success was. It doesn't have to be being a doctor. Like, what are you fascinated by? Is it hiking? Is it being a teacher or teaching people things? Is it being a guide? Is it a skill? Is it whittling wood? It's different for everybody. But if someone strategically was able to teach me when I was younger how to find aptitude and find obsession, what you would do if no one ever paid you, the rest is super easy. Figuring out how to make money doing that is the easy part. I think the I think most of the conversations are daunting. What do you want to do? What do you want to do when you're out of school? Most people are grasping at straws and they're only doing what they think they want to do. They don't not sure why. Like, oh yeah, I want to be a doctor. Well, why? Well, I want to help people and I also want to drive a Mercedes or this. We have these like, I don't know, a lot of little reasons why you should do something. And then if you went to the actuality of it, it's like, oh, hey, will you be cool if 70% of your time was interfacing with insurance? Like, wait, what? Like, it's, yeah, so we're not really taught how to find what what we would enjoy for 8 hours a day. And, sorry, I don't know, I even remember where the question started, but
No, no. I think your story is fascinating because I would say most people can relate to that. The idea that what are you passionate about, right? And I mean, like you said, is it video gaming? Is it hiking? Is it fishing? That's all. That's all. True, right? What are our passions? What do we actually enjoy doing? The problem then is a lot of times we come at life with this idea. Hey, I really like playing video games, but at least right now, before nines, I couldn't get paid for it unless somebody even then took a chance on me and recognized some skill in me, and I got into some kind of esports venue, right? Where I could then become a competitive gamer for prize money and endorsements and all that stuff. But for most people, that
That's
is
so crazy
not
difficult, by the way. Like,
right. Right.
I did the statistics on it, and in 2019, you had a 0.0000052% chance that you could make enough money to live on in video games. That was at the height of hearing, oh, this guy's making 50 grand an hour, and Ninja just got a shoe deal, and all these. It seemed very prevalent, like everyone was making money, but statistically, it's 3 times harder than going pro in basketball to just make enough money to live on in video games. So even the outlets that are available are not viable for most people based on the volume of people trying. It's like I don't know if you remember going to Blockbuster, but if you ever went to Blockbuster and you didn't have a movie in mind, you just went to the wall. There's so much choice that it was almost paralyzing. And that's kind of the way it is in video games. There's so many people doing this that it's hard to parse the data and see like who to even watch, what streamers to follow, what to you just kind of go with whatever the popular names are and you just assimilate into somebody else's um, following. Sorry, I've got a cat hair on my face that I'm trying to get off desperately.
No,
It's
but
driving me nuts.
you're so right. I mean, the probability of success is incredibly low because there are so many options, so many choices. But even on the take video games out of the picture, I mean, I'm just thinking how many people are out there that are playing street basketball or street soccer, right? That could be incredibly good players, but because no one ever sees them, no one who owns a sports club or has influence in that space sees them, and so their talent never even gets to the level that it could or should, simply because, going back to what you said earlier, nobody took a chance on them, right? Nobody knows they exist. Nobody took a chance on them. So, I think that the idea now of saying I want this to be more widely available to everyone is phenomenal because no one else has really done that before, and to give people that opportunity to maybe make a few bucks on video games. So, what does that look like in your vision? So you have people playing video games. How much money do you think they can expect to make from this? I mean, is this really something where somebody can quit their $11.50 an hour job to just play video games full time? And is that really possible at scale even? I mean, if we had, 1 million people who are in these low paying jobs, but they have incredible skill, can the platform support that to pay them essentially a living wage, if you will, and quit those low wage jobs that really don't progress anybody forward?
See, now you're asking the fun questions. The answer is I'm not sure. I don't know. I So my goal is different, and so I created something that has never been done, and it's not wagering. It's not like skill wagering. That's a thing that's been done. I basically reverse engineered the problem that I've had my entire life, and that problem is agency. I haven't ever felt like I was fully in control of my options. I come from a lot of chaos. Um, and so I'm constantly feeling like I was feeling like I was treading water and realizing that video games is where a lot of vulnerable people go to kind of hide and tread water while they're healing. Uh, uh, the the product ended up becoming agency. How can I help people feel in control of their own future? And I put I, it, the the first of 9 different ways you can make money in video games is going to be skill-based wagering. So one team versus another team, they put up money, my platform takes a small percentage, you win, you get the rest. Now, here's why I can't answer your question. I am not a gambling or wagering person. I don't do it in my personal life, and I tried really hard to figure out a way to get you paid hourly to play video games because it's safe and dependable, and that was really important to me. Not being able to do that, I then looked at the skill-based wagering model. And again, I didn't want 50% of my customer base to eat the other 50% alive. So I thought I got to break this model. And what I put IP on was the ability to play someone you know is marginally worse than you. And they know you're marginally better. I'm talking 1 to 3% worse or better. And what that does is it turns you into two different customers, right? One of you wants to learn how to play against someone only a little better at a chance at greater money. It's a fixed fee. If you're the worst player, you pay a fixed fee less, whether it's 1 or 3% worse. Better player pays a fixed fee more, whether it's 1 or 3%. And what I wanted to do was give a safe option for people that would never consider themselves good enough to wager. Like, that's not even a thought in their head, not even in their process. They're not out there Googling how to make money in video games. It's just what they do as their main hobby. They're doing it anyway, it's their escape. What if I could curtail your risk and give you a statistical advantage that doesn't mean you're going to win every match, but says you can't lose money over time? That was um, very appealing to me. Like counting cards, they won't allow you to count cards because it takes your odds to win to 51%. That's it, 51%. It just means you can't lose money over time. All right, what if I could bring that to my people as a safe option for the type of people that aren't trying to wager again, you know? And yeah, there's plenty of strong egos. There's plenty of people that would want to play people only marginally better at a chance at bigger money. So I don't know what the mix is going to be. My big problem is going to be if I tout this feature all over the world, and that's the only people only want to play people for that are worse than them. That would be like, hey, that model's not sustainable. We don't know how it's going to shake out. But I reverse engineered the problem I had my entire life. My problem, again, I didn't have options, so I thought, what gives you agency? Well, there's three things, in my opinion, after thinking about it. And again, this isn't verified anywhere. This is how I feel after a lot of thought, but I'm open to being wrong or changing. I think the three things you need for agency, one side is money. You need, I'm blanking now, money, future optimism, the ability that tomorrow could be better than today. And I think it's on a bedrock of self-worth. And I think all three sides of that triangle touches in some form or another. But those are the three things you kind of need to have more options, to feel like you have control. And so that's what the product ended up being, and I reverse engineered from there. The money side, it's not just how to make it, it's how to keep it and how to grow it. Nobody is teaching in school how to keep money. Typically, it's coming from parents that want to give their kid a real meaningful start in their life. But not everyone even has the knowledge to pass down, and not everyone's in the position to do that. A lot of parents are just trying to get out of their day. And so I understand that too. So I thought, all right, what if we could make a ton of different ways you could make money in video games? We start off with skill-based wagering, and then every year we add a new way that you can make money in video games. And basically we're the center of everything a gamer cares about. So it's not just, hey, play this guy for money. Maybe you want to be a caster and just add value to what you're seeing in the match with your voice. We've got a plan for that, like a color commentary. Um, but yeah, but the first mechanic is this skill-based wagering. It's going to drive the majority of the revenues that allow us to do other really cool things for gamers. So that's typically the main one that I talk about. But will people be able to quit their jobs? I don't know, man. I used to work in the mall at Apple for 9 hours a day. I would then Uber till 4 in the morning, right from work. And on weekends, I worked in a men's clothing store. My aspirations is that the next Jared might not have to Uber. What if this replaces that? What if you just make enough money to take your significant other out? What if our platform helps you save for your first vacation? I mean, you'd be surprised at how low the bar is for a lot of people's goals, things they've never done. And yeah, I just know that story. I'm a weird, introspective guy that asks a bajillion questions, and I want to know how things work. Why? What are the variables? I'm really big on that. And so I just did that on a problem no one's looking at. And that problem is that there's this whole, seemingly a generation of people around my age that got stuck after the housing crisis melted down. There was a lot of us that did have college degrees that ended up being like waiters in sushi restaurants. We were competing with people with masters and doctorates for entry level positions that needed 15 years of experience so they could pay us 35 grand. And a lot of us kind of retreated online, and that's where we live out the best part of our lives. My only thought was, what if you could make money doing what you love, not what you're good at or what you can stand for 8 to 10 hours a day, but what you actually love? And then what if you didn't live a diminished life because of it? What if this was the Google of gaming jobs? And when you start looking at that with that lens, conceptually it ends up becoming wildly different. And that's good and bad. The good is that this really has never been done. The bad is that people with money say they want risk until there's no rubric. Like, you can't say you're the Uber of this or the, I don't know. Yeah, it scares a lot of people when you say, hey, we don't know what percentage of people are strictly going to play people worse than them. I'm not sure. And there's no model that's going to show me that until it's actually deployed. But this is built with intention. We put a ton of safeguards in. You can tell by the features what we care about. We're the only wagering company in the world that will cut you off if you're losing. Like, think about that. So we've got a feature that says, if after 6 months, I think it takes 6 months for you to see where you are as a gamer in a particular game, unless you're actively looking to become better and like adding measures, and then the growth curve's a little different. But for most people, they just play a game, and 6 months will kind of tell you where your skill band is and your aptitude in that game. So if after 6 months your win-loss dollar amount is negative, we put you on probation. During probation, you can only play people worse than you in that game. If after 2 more months you're not severely trending upwards, we will cut you off from playing that game. Hey, Felix, this is the one you play for fun, man. I'm not out here to ruin anybody. I've had people say, hey, I make a decent amount of money and I don't care about losing. I just like the thrill of money being on the line. Like, what about me? And the response is, I don't care. You're not my customer. I don't care. There are plenty of platforms you can play to go lose your ass if that's, your thing. I'm trying to help people make money doing what they love, and I'm trying desperately to take a holistic view of the way you experience the world if you entrust me to be one of your streams of revenue or your only stream of revenue. That's I think that's incredibly important. That's where the financial literacy piece came in. I saw I was on Twitter one day and I watched this guy reverse 2K. He said one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, and it was just from not knowing. It was a 1v1 tournament for $1 million, right? And one of his fans on Twitter was like, "What are you going to do when you win?" And he said, "Man, my dad works really hard. I'm going to walk into his office, slap that check on the table, and tell him he can retire." I'm thinking, shit, man. I'm 10 years older than this kid. My dad actually had me late in life at like 35. If I gave him $1 million now, that only guarantees him like 20 grand a year for the rest of his life, potentially. Because you don't know when someone's going to die, but you start seeing the trends of how long they're living. It's like, there's no way your dad's going to have to enter the job market again as like an 80-year-old or a 70-year-old. It's the best of intentions, but he didn't understand what it took to retire. So I started thinking, wow, man, if I'm going to be responsible for your income, and some people, I don't think everyone's this will be their soul. Like, I can't guarantee $60,000 or $90,000 a year jobs for everyone, but I think maybe the top 5% of our platform could potentially do this as their only thing. And if this is their only thing, it's on me to make sure they're prepared for the next chapter in their life. And so in order to not have people be caught flat-footed, I thought, we got to teach financial literacy. And through there, we started integrating it deeply into the platform with really big incentives. So if you take the financial literacy modules and you pass, we then take a permanent percentage off your match entry fee for life. Makes no business sense whatsoever, man. But it does show you I care about the way you experience the world. And there's a lot of features like that that show, and we make our money up other places. I've found ways to take it out of industry as opposed to gamers. So it's definitely not a charity, and I think this will drive tons of revenues based on volume. But I took the approach of like not squeezing every dollar out of every person and help them secure their future, not just their now. Like, all right, they're having a lot of fun now getting value. Are they going to be the one that has to enter the market at 60 or at 40? And so, yeah, a lot of the things that most people aren't concerned with terrify me, of like taking the responsibility of your financial journey as a customer. I got to make sure you're prepared. And the fastest way is to teach you how to stop the leaks in your budget. And what's even better is teaching like game changing ways to leverage your money in a smart way where you still have security.
No, I love that. And I can definitely see that you're doing this for the right intentions, right? You really want to help people. There's obviously the financial aspect, but the other components that you mentioned earlier was, building that self-worth foundation, right? And to give people that agency and the optimistic outlook on the future. And, I try to do the same thing in my coaching practice with some of my clients, right? You building a good, strong foundation, knowing who you are and believing in yourself so that you can feel confident in doing something on your own, something other than just showing up to a low wage an hour job, because that's really limiting yourself. So how does the platform help with that, you think? Is there something built in to give people some confidence, some increase in their own self-worth and how they think about themselves, how they believe in themselves? Is that built into the platform as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a bunch of ways we do that because those three things are the lens we use to measure all decisions. Like everything we do is either helping you monetarily with future optimism or self worth. And I think something really important in the beginning is just making money on a skill set that you've honed and love. It is so underrated. This is not, oh, I'm good at sales, so I'll go make money at Best Buy. That's not what you would do if you weren't being paid. When you can make money on the thing you do for fun, that first immediately gives you a boost. It's something that you can really only experience. It's like trying to tell you what ice cream tastes like. It feels different. Then we put gamers in a position to be able to teach others. That's really important. And as long as the structures are in place, I find it fascinating how most people can't learn from their peers or anyone below them. I don't know why physiology is set up that way, but it's really difficult. And the people that can learn from people that would traditionally be below their station or their peers, they really kind of stand out. Like, oh, it's surprising when everyone's trying to like, I don't know, show you how much knowledge I have or how competent I am. It stands out when someone's, I don't know, takes something from you as a lesson. And so I thought, all right, what if we put people in a position to be able to serve other people while making money as well? And those are some of the other aspects of it looks like a wagon wheel. I kind of stole the business strategy of Xbox. They had this really good idea. They wanted to be the center of a game, the center of your living room with the Xbox One. That was the ability to add in your cable through inputs and out, and you can control everything. You know, it's your DVD player, it's what you game on, it's going to be your stereo system, everything. And I thought, man, that's really a cool concept. I would love to position myself to be the center of a gamer's life. And so a lot of it comes with having a strong financial footing. It's kind of like muscles in the gym. You start getting bigger, you think you're tough. It just kind of like naturally happens. When you start having a solid financial future and you're able to add value with your skill set, things start falling into place. You don't have to drag someone along. You just have to be the scaffolding. And when they repeat the process, the outcome is very predictable. So yeah, it's I had a third, but I lost it. I'm sure if I remember, I'll come back to you. But those are the questions we obsess over. It literally touches everything that we do. Is how do I give you self confidence? How do we give you a stable future? How do we? I mean, most of my life I was panicked. How do I alleviate that in other people?
Yeah. Um, let me ask you a different question here that just came to mind, that I think maybe on other people's minds. One of my concerns is, I grew up just like you. My dad worked for IBM. We had old i286s, i386s coming to our home to play with, and my brother and I would hack on it, and we try to get Linux installed on it, and figure out how to write our own games in BASIC. And so that's kind of where we started with it all. So I can definitely relate to that, to the childhood. But where we've come from then to now, and I see this now in my own kids, is almost an over dependence on the screen and less of an ability to interact with other people. And we're not meant to live this life in isolation. We're meant to work together and grow together, and help each other out and collaborate. So my I guess the concern, maybe to some degree, is, if you think about, if you say I'm a gamer, I think for in most people's heads that means you are a young person who doesn't have a job, who still lives in their mom's basement. You eat chips and drink soda and just play video games, right? I mean, that's sort of that South Park cartoonish stereotypical gamer. And so by giving people a way to make money now off video gaming, you're drawing them more towards the screen and possibly away from other people again. Obviously, there's some competition that's built into the system, but where do you see that maybe affecting society as a whole and how we interact with each other as a result of this platform, or video
Um,
gaming in general, right? I mean, maybe it's not just
terrifies me.
your platform.
It terrifies me. I stay up like really panicking over problems I don't have. I visualize a ton, and I'm constantly trying to see what this is going to look like. And I've got two really big fears. One, I'm going to bring something to the world that's a net negative. Like that really, I have a lot of anxiety over that. And the second is I'm going to build something that someone else uses to leverage my people into the ground. And so I spend a disproportionate amount of my time preparing for steps I'm not currently on to make sure. I mean, driven by fear for sure. But yeah, those are great. Those are valid points. I'm aiming to help you make money doing something you're already doing. Now, there will be people that do it more as a function of it. I um I don't know how to stop that social networking train. I think it's very prevalent, even in the people that are just a few years younger than me. I went out to eat with some mid 20 somethings. I'm 38, and none of them looked at me like the entire time we were eating together, and some of them were even texting each other at the table, or they were gaming while they're talking, like a cell phone game, or doing whatever. And it was just like, hey guys, can we put the phones down? I'm trying to have an experience in real life, IRL, guys. And
Yeah.
it's I don't know, man. It's it's a line that I have to tiptoe and be very considerate of, but I can tell you it's my number one priority. I I think there are other questions that are uncomfortable that we could be asking as well. Like what happens when people that aren't just I'm building this for people that are in no and low barrier to entry jobs to have an escape pod. I think that I'm going to be competing with Uber and McDonald's and the shittiest job you've ever had. That's really who I'm competing with. I'm going to be an opportunity cost to those businesses for their workers. And what happens when they come out of finance? What happens when they come out of business? What happens when I mean, we saw a small scale version of that with the pandemic. If we think about it, you had a ton of people that were in restaurants, that were in retail, that got out for the first time, and they paid us what felt like an obscene amount of money to poor people, me being one, I'm speaking for me, to stay home. And now on the back of that, you've got a choice to go back, and a lot of us found a different way to move forward, a more meaningful way of life. And then we didn't go back to the restaurants. We didn't go back to the retail environments, which allowed people older than us to call us lazy and say, no one wants to work anymore. It's like, no, man, they found their escape pod. What happens when that shit happens we bring that to corporate America and we're not just grabbing, your McDonald's employees? There's going to be a crazy shakeup if we hit the targets that are in my head. And I don't know what that's going to look like. It's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit. I can imagine, in 5 or 10 years, I can't tell you how many times in my head I've spoken before Congress, and they're asking me if I knew this was going to happen. Some of this stuff's unavoidable. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be ugly, and it's just on us to pivot when we see signs of negative. Like when this is not good, we need to make it better. So hopefully, with transparency, we can. My goal is to get the brand trust, to build a customer moat. When you see that every one of these features is designed to help you live a better life, like Felix, we're doing stupid things. Like I'm trying to work in allowing people to accrue off time that's paid at an hourly rate. Pay you to not play my platform? Like, are you kidding me? I saw that streamers, when you finally get what you've been looking for your entire life to make money gaming, some of them build a hamster wheel they can't get off of. You change games, you're following leaves. You get sick, you're following leaves. You go on vacation, you're following leaves. What if we built in self-preservation? Now, the lawyers hate that idea. They're like, you're basically making all these people employees. So I'm trying to find a way to satisfy the money people while keeping the goal of giving people balanced lives. What if we help gamify travel? What if we were looking out for all these aspects of your life and not just, hey, we've got this product that you can buy that allows you to make money. Like, yeah, that's cool. But what was cooler was when my fiance showed me how to travel as an adult for the first time. And I got to go to a place that doesn't look or sound like me and come back with a different perspective. Things that build character. I think, to your point, the self-worth piece comes with experiences. And a lot of times they come with experiences that you've resigned to not be for you. I've already surpassed my expectations. Bless you. I already surpassed the expectations I had for my own life, which is kind of sad, but really freeing, man. It feels like I'm in bonus time. And that's where the real growth happens, is when it's on you and you're learning and growing. And yeah.
Right. One thing I want to say is, to your point that people left jobs and didn't come back. It's not that they're lazy. People actually do like to work. They just want to do something that's meaningful to them. They don't want to do something that's just, rogue work just for the sake of getting a paycheck at the end of the week. They want to do something that actually contributes to their own growth and maybe to the growth of, some bigger mission, whatever company they work for. And I think that's where all these employers get it wrong, right? People aren't just coming for a job for the money. And you see this especially if you look at white collar versus blue collar workers, right? I mean, on the blue collar side of things, a lot of times people change jobs because they get a higher pay somewhere else. But on the white collar things, and that's more and more what we have here in this country as a service-based economy, is more of that white collar work and less of the blue collar work. The number one priority for people is the quality of the culture at work. The wage, I think, comes in second or third. It's not the top priority for most people. So people leave jobs not because they're lazy or because, to some degree, because they're not paid enough, but it's because, and that comes back to the culture class you shared at the beginning of the conversation, it's because of the culture at the work, right? So you create an environment where people enjoy the culture and they can, meaningfully contribute to the growth of the company as well as their own personal growth. That's a job people are going to want. And I could definitely see how Nines does that, right? You're creating something where people can find meaningful growth in themselves in a platform that helps strengthen their own self-worth, their outlook on life, and on top of that, they get to be taught financial literacy that is, like you said, not taught in schools at all. It really is a fascinating platform, I think, for at least, especially with the mission that you have yourself set and the way you're going about it, is truly fascinating, because this can truly be life changing to a lot of people. So knowing all of that, I want to pivot a little bit here. I want to ask you some questions out of my simple networking toolbook, to get a better feeling for who you are, who's behind all of this, right? Who's the man behind the curtain? So the first question I want to ask you is, who or what is your inspiration in life?
Mm, I don't know. I used to be inspired by my dad. I'd watch him get suited and booted. He had a home office. He sold the ability to video conference. He sold this as software in the 80s and 90s. And so he sold Fortune 10 accounts, and I would listen to him like wheel and deal on the home office phone. But I've always been different. Like, I've never really had any problems seeing, I see the world the way it should be. And that's incredibly rare. And I didn't realize how rare that is. And it's isolating, because when you, when you show, you could work really hard on something and bring it to me, and all I will see is what is wrong. And I have to temper my, um, my compulsion to show you the things that I see that would make this better. And it could have started off fantastic. It's the worst. It's my worst personality trait. Um, but at the same time, it it drives a better experience. I'm a very experience based person. I had something like foundational happen to me when I was 18. I um, I had amnesia. I couldn't make new memories for like 3.5 months, and I yeah. So on the back of that, I really became obsessed with getting back to zero. I was living in a deficit, and I then became obsessed with experience and the way people see the world. And most of my value, again, having a very low self worth at the time, I thought my value to the world was being able to identify people that went through really hard experiences. I thought my only value was to guide the way for people that are in chaos. I've been there. Can I help you? And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think I've always been odd, and then that experience really just like cranked it to 11. And yeah, I think that's actually how I've been able to get really, really good at results working for other people. Was I found ways to win that were not very apparent, and most of it was based on the way you experience things, not a product I'm selling, what that product does for you. And I just kind of brought that to the problem I know intimately. But there was no grand. I'm telling you, man. There is nothing. I see you're looking for something remarkable. There is nothing. I I had no options, and I knew the pond that my people swim in. It's the same. Gamers aren't the same, but we're going to the same. We're using the same thing to run, to hide, to hone your skill set, um, to find social interaction, acceptance. I know that story, and I thought I can make a difference here, and I didn't have options, so it wasn't a hard choice to make.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm looking for anything remarkable. I think we're all human. We all have different experiences, and our own unique path in life is really just figuring out, again, what makes you tick, where you come from, and what drives you on a daily basis. But speaking of something remarkable, you mentioned travel earlier. So, what is a place you haven't been to yet but really want to visit?
I want to go to Costa Rica bad. I started becoming obsessed with outdoor vacations. So growing up with red hair, and both my parents were redheads, we were like the you'll get burned to death by the sun. Make sure you have sunscreen for everything. And so most of my hobbies were inside anyway. I mean, I used to ride bikes a lot and build forts in the woods, but like my young adult life, as soon as I found Counter Strike, that then became I played 1.6, and from there on, that was my like main hobby. If I wasn't in school, I was playing Counter Strike or Halo later, and yeah, so I kind of almost didn't have a fear of going outside. I had a fear of being in the sun too long, an anxiety, not a fear. It didn't stop me from doing things, but if I was in the sun, I was constantly cognizant of how long it's been, how many minutes. I don't know how many people that count the minutes they've been in the sun, but it was just like I don't know. So, but during the pandemic when you couldn't do anything, my one of my favorite experiences, we went out to the mountains of Montana and I went hiking for like the first time and had no cell reception. On the mountain, there's nothing. There's no email. There's no text messages. There's a lot of times no talking. You're just listening to nature. And I felt really switched on, like something almost primal. And I just wanted more of that. So now I hike, and Costa Rica is like a hotbed for adventure tourism. And it's really affordable. And I love different cuisines. I Yeah, there's so many reasons why Costa Rica hits all of my all of my targets, but I honestly want to go everywhere. I wasn't able to travel for the first I don't know how many years. I didn't really start traveling till I was like 28. And so it's been one of those things where I got the bug immediately. I want to see everything. I want to experience it all. I want to talk to people. I want to ask them about their lives. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I've been to Costa Rica. I mean, I've been to Nicaragua and Mexico down there, but yeah, Nicaragua was a fun trip. That was awesome. The sleeping outside in a hammock. That was like some of the best sleep I've ever gotten in my life. So, yeah, I could see Costa Rica being on the list. That's awesome, man. I don't think anybody has mentioned Costa
What
Rica
was
before.
it What's it like waking up in a hammock? Were you like in the trees or was it just in your bungalow?
Yeah, so we stayed at this was for a medical trip when I was in medical school, and we stayed at some medical mission there. I don't know what denomination, but it was some nunnery. And so on the outside patio, they had these columns, and they strung the hammocks up from that. So on one side was the building, on the other side was the garden. And it was just so incredibly peaceful to sleep in those hammocks. Just you hear the birds chirping and nature going and the wind whistling through the trees, right? And the weather's nice, so you were never too hot or never too cold. It was just incredibly peaceful. I mean, you wake up, or at least I woke up, and it was just one of the best rest I've ever gotten. It was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Where's
Um,
where's the next place on your list?
I have a few. The one big one for me that I'm really trying to make happen, and I don't know if it's going to be yet, because I now have four kids that would need to travel with me too, which makes it somewhat cost prohibitive. Plus, none of them are very adventurous with their food. I really want to go back to Germany, where I was born and raised, this summer, because the Euro Cup is happening there this summer. So I would love to go back there and actually be there when the Euro happens. But like I said, with four kids traveling and four kids who aren't, well, one of them will eat, but the other three are just not adventurous eaters at all. And like the food that you like to eat doesn't exist there. So
Yeah, but it's all breads and cheeses. You don't think you can get them on breads and cheeses?
Uh, the problem is that the breads, if you go to Germany, the breads you get, really the good breads, you go to a baker, right? There's bakers in every corner. You go to a baker. You don't really, I mean, you can buy bread in the store, but that's really not what most people do. Most people go to an actual baker and buy fresh bread. And it's just not the same as white Wonder Bread that you get here in the US. So, it's like not the processed stuff. You get actual real bread. Yeah, you could do that, but then you're still missing out on so much of the other food that's there. So I haven't quite, there's actually a fairly big German American festival here in Toledo. every summer, and it's the closest thing I have gotten to real authentic German food here in the U.S. And I've taken my kids there the last couple of years, and all they eat are the pretzels. And I'm like, you can't live off pretzels if we're going to go there for 2 weeks, right? I mean, there's other foods. They just have no interest in eating or trying any of it. But kids are kids. So I had logistics that I still haven't quite wrapped my own head around how to make that happen for myself and them. All right, last question for me. It's the oddest question I've ever asked, but you're the perfect guy to ask this question too. Would you rather have a cat that barks or a dog that meows?
Mm. I think I'd probably. That's so tough. I know it sounds really like I So my cat did bark for the first time the other day, and I thought it was fascinating. It was like a function of it was like purring and then sneezed at the same time while it was purring, and it came out as an actual bark. I'm a dog person. I love dogs. That's the quickest way to sidetrack my thought process is bring a dog in the room. But I think a cat that barks. I think that would be absolutely fascinating.
All right, awesome. We'll do the cat that barks. That's awesome, man. One of the other threats on this podcast is that every guest gets to ask the next guest the question, not knowing who that person is, what we're going to talk about, or when we're going to record. So this question to you today comes from Cassie Atkins, who wants to know, in your life, if you can make one change that you have control over, what would that change be?
Probably organization. I'm very scatterbrained. I think I'm held back by lack of organization, by the nature of like I don't know, my personality, my thought process. So I think that would probably help me the most, but it also feels painfully labor intensive while I'm doing it. I just need to learn that the opportunity cost in the moment is paying back dividends later on. I heard a cool quote that said, "Future you is counting on, or the person you could be is counting on you to keep your promises." It's something to the effect of that. And it's that really, I've been enamored with that later. So do hard things now because you need it later.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Do you? I hope this isn't too personal, but do you think you have ADHD?
Oh, I know I do for sure. Yeah, my mom was actually one of the top educational advocates in the country. And yeah, I've been diagnosed with literally every marker, like every one since second grade.
Yeah. The part of the reason I ask is I actually looked into the prevalence of ADHD in entrepreneurs, and it's actually slightly higher in entrepreneurs than the rest of the population. And the question is there maybe even some evolutionary advantage to ADHD in the entrepreneurial space? There's definitely the other group of people are wanderers, people that roam the earth, and that's probably by not wanting to sit still and always looking for new opportunities and not just focusing on the thing that's right in front of us. That's probably how we populated the earth. That's how humans probably spread from continent to continent. So there's probably something to be said where ADHD is a positive benefit to entrepreneurs. And I actually did a podcast episode on that probably a year ago now on what I call entrepreneurial deficit disorder. So it's just ADHD, but it's really as a benefit to entrepreneurs specifically. Fascinating idea, actually, if you think about it. But listen, it's your turn now, Jared. You get to ask the next quest
Yeah.
a question of your choosing, not knowing who that is, what we're going to talk about, or when we're even going to record.
Okay, man. So I've been asking this question of people since college. If you found a planet just like Earth and you had an infinite amount of resources and could send any amount of people, do you think after starting from nothing but resources, you could build up to where we are today? Is it possible? Or because here's the thought process. Yeah. So the thought process that, I mean, at first, the answer, a lot of people have an immediate answer of how they feel in their gut. But when you think about it, most of the people that know how to create original technology are no longer with us. So we learn how to create iterations of something that's already been here, and we already have tools and processes and all that. You could send as many people as you want to a barren land that has trees, that has mines that aren't created yet, and has all the resources. Could you get it back to where we are today, or would it be something drastically different? If you were intentionally trying to build this again, I don't think it's possible. I think we'd be on an alternate technology track. But I don't know. It's just a fun thing to go back and forth with to see how people problem solve and what they believe.
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting question. I think I agree with you. I think everything, even like just coming back to the concept of evolution, right? Where we are today is a creation of everything that happened before us today. So if we were to start from scratch, our trajectory would probably be different because there'd be different challenges, different problems to solve, different opportunities come about, and so we would be driven in a different direction starting from scratch. That's sort of my thinking. I don't think we would create the same world that we have here today on Earth, even if we had the opportunity to.
I also cheated and I gave you how I felt before allowing you to answer.
Yeah, no,
Some
but
people will anchor.
no,
Not
that's
saying that's
true.
what
But
you did, but normally when I ask
um,
it, I normally just wait.
right, no, I totally get that concept. But no, I do think that the trajectory would be different because again, the problems would be different, the challenges would be different, and the opportunities would be different. So that's fascinating. I love that question. I'm going to ponder that a little bit more.
Everyone gets hung up.
Anyways,
Everyone gets hung up on the infinite number of people. That because that's the first thing. How many can I send? Can I send someone that knows how to? You can send whoever you want, man. Send as many people as you. Yeah. Do you think conceptually, if we tried to steer towards where we are today, we could get there? Is it possible?
yeah, I mean, even taking this back to video games, right? I mean, you think about the Civilization games or the Anno 1602s or any of those like world building games. We start essentially from the same idea. This is what the world looked like for us, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, whatever, whatever the preamble is. But then everybody creates their own world. Roller Coaster Tycoon, right? What a successful theme park looks like here in the US or anywhere else in the world, but that's not what you're going to build in the game. Just because you know where we're at today isn't where you're going to end up. So I think the same concept there applies if you were to take this into the real world to a foreign planet. Um, Anyways, super cool. That's a great question. I love it. So listen, how can people get in touch with you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah. My email address is Jared, Jared, at nines.gg, nines.gg. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always down to talk about furthering these goals, helping people make money doing what they love.
That's awesome, man. I love that, and like I said, your mission is truly amazing. You're not just doing this for yourself; you're truly trying to help other people build a better life for themselves, and that is something I can totally get behind. Any final words from you to the world?
Mm, man, if you know anybody that has the balls to fund cataclysmic change, please send them my way.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll leave all the links to connect with you in the description below so people can reach out to you more easily, more readily, and take it from there. Thank you so much. This was an awesome conversation. So thanks for taking the time to being here today, Jared. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity, Felix. I appreciate you, man.
All right. I really hope you enjoyed that. The questions that I asked towards the end are from my new book, The Simple Networking Tool. It's a great book that redefines how we network. It's all about who someone is and not what they are. So if you want to get your own book, it's available on Amazon. If you want to learn more, there's videos about it here on YouTube. So you can check out this amazing new social science experiment. I'm so excited for it. if you do get a book and you do start your own, please let me know how it goes and what your experience is like. I'm working on the second edition, and I want to make it the best one yet. So be sure to tag me, let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching.